welcome back to the Hawkins Do You Copy podcast. My name is Lauren.
And my name is Emily, and in this podcast we talk about all things Stranger Things.
And today we are doing another bonus things episode and talking about some more comics. So there has been 2 more sets of comics that have come out since our last set of bonus things.
Yeah, I think since we spoke, we've had Science Camp and then obviously the D&D comics, which end next month. I think it's early February, isn't it?
3rd of February they end. We did have a couple of little extra ones. There was the Halloween special edition that was just a one-off, and there was Zombie Boys as well. But as actual Stranger Things comic series, we've had 2. And today we're going to be talking about Science Camp because it finished recently and we have read the whole thing and have some thoughts on the comic.
Yep. But before we get into it, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Stitcher, and on our social medias at Hawkins Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and hawkinsdocopy.tumblr.com on Tumblr.
Yeah,
that's everything. That's covered.
That
everything.
is everything. That is all the places.
There we go.
There we go. If you follow us on Tumblr as well, we now have our ask box open, so you can send messages and any comments.
Yeah. We double checked. We've got it open for users of Tumblr and anonymous. So
yeah,
send us things, send us questions, and because we're always up for talking about what other people want us to
Stranger
talk
Things.
About as well. Yeah, I mean that's the point of the podcast. You know what I mean? We're up for if people want us to talk about anything, that we're happy to talk about things. So
I mean that goes on all social media. Yeah, all social media.
Exactly.
If you've got any questions or anything, like, let us know. But yes, today we're going to talk about Stranger Things Science Camp, which focuses on Dustin, who has been the focus of lots of things, but it is set in the summer of 1985, but before he gets back to Hawkins. So this is actually his camp experience at Camp Nowhere. So it's quite a good comic, I'd say, in the sense that it's information that we didn't have, so it doesn't necessarily contradict the show because we never saw it in the show.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Will comics in a sense, I suppose, in a way where there's not really much you can contradict because we are never going to see it anyway. And it both adds, but at the same time doesn't add enough that you're thinking this is retconning information that we were given.
I don't think there is anything that is actually retconned. I don't think there's anything that actually contradicts the show at all.
The only thing I can think of is that there is no way Dustin would not tell everyone what happened during the summer. That is the only thing, especially since, I mean, obviously we'll go through each of the comics and do a little bit of a summary about what happened in each one, but some stuff goes down. And if I was Dustin, the first thing I would do would get back like, guys, nearly got murdered on camp this year, and I don't know why he didn't say anything apart from this is what I made.
Unless it was sort of he was so like Susie, and then Russians that the sort of murder subplot of the summer didn't cross his mind. But I feel like that's sort of something he would address.
I mean, I know I definitely would. That'd be the first thing I think I'd say. I'd go home. But I mean, fair play to Dustin, I guess. I don't have a point there.
So it's a series of 4 comics, and in issue 1 we see Dustin arrive at Camp Nowhere and he's missing his friends. He sort of has a little flashback to the party, which is kind of cute, and he's thinking like, oh, I wish my friends were here, but I'm excited to have a summer of science, which, like mood. And he is like, I can do this alone. I can do this. And then there's bullies at the science camp, and he's kind of like, really? Why is like, I like his attitude towards them. Like, it's straight up like, I'm just not doing this. I'm here to have fun and I'm not dealing with bullies. So he stands up against them and they bully him. After then, they make loads of comments about him and his teeth. And to be fair, like, it's so good. I really like that they brought over the condition, the craniocorneal dysplasia, and they brought it over, and he kind of owns it, and he owns it in the comics just as much as he owns it in the show, and just as much as obviously it is something that Gaten has in real life, and he's so vocal about it and so good with it, and like raising awareness. And I think every mention of it is a good thing, because it draws awareness, and I liked that little sort of reference. And he compares himself to the X-Men and says about it being a superpower, which I think is really nice.
Yeah, I was going to say about that. I thought that's actually a really nice little reference, where it's like, oh, but you're going to miss out on the way I can do this, and it's, you think,
yeah,
it's nice to, because obviously he's kind of had that attitude since season 1,
yeah,
in a sense as well. So it's nice to see him very in character, which I know sounds silly because you'd imagine that the comics would be in character.
yeah,
But I think in some of the previous ones, there's been moments, and I just think sometimes I don't know if the character would act a certain way. And I think actually, on the whole, the Fruit Science Camp, Dustin is very Dustin.
I thought he was really in character throughout it. But
Oh,
yeah,
actually, so no. I'm gonna take that point back. There is one moment, and because you spoke about this with me, when
is this the
Max and Lucas?
This is in this is in issue 1. This was the only bit in this comic, well, this and kind of the ending a little bit, but this bit like did not sit right with me. Like, I did not like this little comment. No.
So essentially, he's just very much like, oh, I wish Max chose me, which you think, okay, fair enough, because it hasn't been that long between them. But there's this one comment like, oh, if they're broken up again and I'm not there to essentially take advantage, and you think, I don't think that's very Dustin. Like, that's not
No.
Dustin season 2. That's, we need to give him a girlfriend in the comic, and this is how we're going to get about it.
Yeah.
That's what that was. But
yeah.
There we go.
I was like, and it was so frustrating as well, because right before that moment, he was like really bigging Max and Elle up, and he's saying like, I have friends who are girls, and Max is amazing at video games, and like, she's better than us, and she's really cool. And like, he's really bigging up like girls playing games, which, obviously, like, people still now assume that girls don't play. Like, it's so annoying, the comments that some girl gamers get. It's just ridiculous. But he sort of is really defending her, and then he just has this thought where he's like, yeah, well, if I'm not there, and they've broken up, it's like, yeah, almost like, and I can't sort of shoot my shot. It's like, no, absolutely not. And that
calm
was
down
just,
a second, please.
yeah, just no. But yeah, so that was sort of a moment where I was like, no, and it made me give issue 1 4 out of 5 stars, 3 out of 5 stars. I can't remember what I actually rated it in the end. But it definitely sort of made me be like, oh, that was annoying. that was annoying.
Mild frustration.
Yeah, but he is just generally enjoying science, and just, it's really cool, and it's really nice to see. And I've like a big advocate for science and like STEM subjects, so it was really cool. But then he sort of bigs up playing D&D and all of this, which obviously he does, and then he says that he could run a campaign, and he's going to be the dungeon master, and he kind of puts his foot in it and says that he can run this amazing campaign to these bullies. And then he's thinking, oh my god, I am not a DM, like, what do I do? This is Mike's domain. And
I still can't get over that line in the D&D comics. I just know. But also, that's the most in Mike thing, I think. Season 2 Mike. Just be like, leave, Nazi. This is my domain. Classic Mike Wheeler. Anyway, literally. Dustin.
But like, I love that, and like, he's kind of, yeah, like, stressing about it, but he's thinking about how he can make this really cool campaign. And then alongside Dustin at camp, we have the camp counselors, who are a bit older. They're like 18, and they are kind of like, oh, it's just like a summer job and everyone's annoying kind of thing. And then it ends on a cliffhanger, because Steph, who is one of the camp counselors, is kind of like ridiculed a little bit by some of the other counselors, and she, to kind of try and prove that she's that like can do what they do, goes to sneak some of the beers, and while she's doing it she gets attacked by this masked figure. It's very Friday the 13th. It's very like, they actually mention Friday the 13th in issue 2, and it ends on a cliffhanger of, oh my god, she's been attacked. And then issue 2 starts the next day, where everyone's just unaware and they think that she's just left in the middle of the night. She's just quit in the middle of the night and doesn't want to leave. And they're sort of very like, oh, it's just rude of her to leave, and they don't really think anything of it. And meanwhile, Dustin is stressing and planning his D&D campaign, which he's like, I don't know how to do this.
No, yeah, I think, is it that issue that he essentially settles on, well, what I'll do then is that I'll just take everything that has happened to us,
Yes.
and we'll just put in a campaign.
He's like, it's going to be in a magic school and we're going to have these powers. And he's essentially describing the end of season 1.
Yeah. Which once again fills me with no hope that the show is going to end with them just going, we'll roll an 8 this time, I think, which I said last time. But I don't know. There was on that note, actually, there was a really interesting discussion on Tumblr the other day that was about how much do we take these kind of things as canon and use it as evidence for the show and theories into that. And I think with this comic, I feel like I'm doing a summary, but I have a point. But I feel like with this comic, it doesn't really give us much compared to some of the other ones.
No, I
think all in all, it just seems to work really much as a standalone.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, and I think, you know, it can hint possibly to his season 4 storyline.
Yeah,
a bit, I guess,
with the Hellfire Club, which we know
Hellfire
about.
Club. I mean, I'm presuming, I think is it been pretty much confirmed that Eddie is the dungeon master?
I think so, because I think he's the head. I have my notes from last week in my handy book. Look at me. He is the head of the Hawkins High official D&D club, the Hellfire Club.
So he could be. I mean, we presume that he'd be dungeon master, but it could be a thing then that Dustin maybe has a go with it. That's the only thing.
And he wants to take over.
Yeah, maybe Eddie's training him up. Who knows? And maybe other members that could possibly be involved in the Hellfire Club could also have a go with.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway, right, yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting.
This was the moment I saw that, and it was like the flashbacks to the school and all of this stuff, and kind of the way that he's immediately like, it's going to be a magic school and there's going to be monsters and we're going to have these powers. And I think I was reading it and I sent a message to you and I was like, this could potentially be foreshadowing of, and it was all a campaign.
I still hate that there's part of me is like, I don't hate it. Like, I don't hate it. I would just be really, really annoyed.
It's a little bit of a cop-out, I think.
Yeah,
because then it erases everything. Like, Elle doesn't, like, she exists, but Elle is never found. That nothing happens. Like, I think if season 1, if like, even then, like, I just, like I said, I don't hate the concept, but I do feel like it's a bit of a cop-out, and it just kind of erases everything that happens.
I think I enjoy it for the pure fact that they would have had to have filmed the ending back in it would have been 2015, wouldn't it? Because it came out 2016. So that, I think that's the reason why I'm just like, I would love it for that pure thing.
They've been sat on this.
Finn, Noah, Gaten, and Caleb have been sitting there the whole time being like, we know exactly how this is going to end. I think I like it for that idea. But I would also be really, really frustrated.
Just like thinking that I'd like taken all this time to like care about all of these characters, to then find out that I don't actually know them, and that some of them aren't even there in the first place. Like Bob.
Oh,
Like,
bless.
and then Elle and then Max, and then like
Mm.
what happens, you know, like how do things happen if that is the case? So maybe this isn't foreshadowing, maybe it's just here's a little, like, we'll just sprinkle it in just to make people
Little
realize,
tease,
yeah,
but actually,
but it's
yeah.
not a thing, but it's just going to make you stress about it until season 5, I presume, is the finale.
And by stressing about it, we'll stress about it. No one else will care.
Yeah, literally no one else cares.
Yeah.
We spend too much time stressing about what happens in this show, which just I don't understand when that became my life. But yes, in this episode as well, we also meet Susie properly, which is super cute. Like, she's in the background of episode 1, issue 1, sorry. But in this one, she actually asks for advice from one of the counselors of how to talk to a boy, which is really cute. And then she goes and talks to Dustin, but they have a little bit of a misunderstanding because he's like making probability charts because they don't have any D&D dice, which, like, oh my god, like I was like, this is amazing. And I kind of wanted to make one, but I need to not do that and not get obsessed with it. But I really love probability. And I did like a whole micro thing in that. So that, like, it's just like a massive nerd. I like really freaked out over him being like, I don't have a dice, so I'm gonna make probability charts. I was like, yes, this dude's like 14. But she's like, this must be taking a really long time. I'm sorry to interrupt. And she kind of like runs away, and it's like, see, no.
I will say Susie was a blessing in this comics. If the comics gave us anything, I'm glad that they showed us a bit more of what Susie's actually like. Because if you think about it, we only saw her singing Never Ending Story, and that
Yeah.
was it. So it was nice to see Susie the character,
Yeah.
and she just felt quite real.
Yeah, she did.
I think out of a lot of the characters I think we meet in this, she felt quite real, and I don't know if it's because she's a pre-existing character.
Yeah.
Like the others felt a bit tropey,
Yeah, and a bit
I thought.
2D-ish.
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
Dustin's little friend called Stephen, because of course he's called Stephen.
Yeah, he literally says,
Um,
I have one of my best friends is called Steve.
mhm. He felt a little bit to me like the really shy, I'm scared of everything kind of character.
And not that that
And
was actually his personality, but like the trope version of that.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's what it is more than anything, that it just felt like we were, because I think he's drawn a lot shorter as well,
Yeah.
and that he looks, I mean, like my first reaction when I saw him was like, he looks like he's about 9 years old.
Yeah.
And so he looked like that really typical small, scared of everything kind of kid. And like even the bullies kind of look like, even though they've got like glasses, they're like geeky bullies,
Yeah.
and they're all very, you know what I mean? It's quite tropey,
Yeah.
apart from Susie, which doesn't make sense because as I said that she's a character that exists,
Yeah.
and so it was very refreshing, I thought, actually.
She was my favorite thing in this comic. Like,
Mm.
just the science fun. Is it this episode? No, the next issue is the one where they're running and then they have to do the maths and then keep
Yeah.
running. And I was like, this is such a fun game. Like, my favorite
Mm.
things about this comic were the science and like the
Mm.
actual science that was included. It wasn't just he's at science camp, but we're going to ignore what he's doing. They actually
Yeah.
included science content, which I loved. And
Mm.
Susie, they were my two favorite things. But issue 2 ends with another cliffhanger, and this time it is Dawn, and she screams. And Dustin and Stephen actually hear it because they're awake because Dustin's doing some of his campaign. And they go and check it out, and then no one's in the room, and they just assume it was nothing, and they go to bed. Um, and you're like, where is she? She's attacked again by a like cloaked, masked person, and
Mm.
we don't know what's happening. And issue 3 starts with Susie going to ask Dawn for more advice and being told that Dawn left in the middle of the night.
Because of course she did.
Yeah.
The thing with these counselors, I know that it gets wrapped up at the end, have I missed something? The fact that we actually never know what happens to these two?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, are they
thought this.
actually? Are they murdered with a screwdriver? Spoilers for the end, but okay, I'm going to talk about it. Okay, so at the end of the 4th issue, they find out like the weapon of choice of the masked person is a screwdriver, and it's faked and whatever. But if they're screaming, and like some of the shots from like the end of issue 1 and that suggest something bad has happened to these people, have they actually been killed? Because if so, Dustin really should have told everyone.
Yeah,
What
because it
happened
says,
at the camp?
so Dawn isn't dead. No, you idiot. But then it never explains where they are.
We don't get the payoff.
No.
Where is justice for Dawn? Forget Bob.
And Steph.
Forget
And
Muse.
Steph.
Justice for Steph and Dawn.
And Dawn. That's
it.
That's what we really need when it comes to
This
Stranger
is the
Things.
Stranger Thing. This is the Stranger Things.
Yeah, where
It's
are they?
Not everything else. It's this.
Even if they're not dead, were they
like
just
were they hurt?
Where are they?
I don't know.
Genuinely very confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Anyway,
it's a confusing. No, it is a confusing ending. So then they're just kind of doing science again, doing running, and which I didn't even know was a game where they run and then you have to do maths equations and then run, and it's who can finish the race the quickest. Like, that's really cool. If anybody actually has ever played that at like a science camp, please let me know, because it's quite fun. It would be very stressful, but
we'll play when lockdown ends.
Yeah. And then Dustin goes off to do some more of his campaign, but after kind of getting into a confrontation with the bullies. So then Susie goes after him and he thinks she's the bullies and he upsets her. But he actually goes after her this time to apologize, and they have this formal introduction and kind of make up, and it's really sweet. And but then Laurie, who is another camp counselor, gets attacked, but she survives, and she goes and tells the other remaining counselors what has happened, and their paths and Dustin and Susie's paths overlap, and they overhear, and then Dustin goes to rally the troops so that they can fight the bad guy.
So, question to the readers: who do we think the masked person is after issue 3? Because I called it.
Yeah.
Oh no, what happened? My mouse fell off. Because I called it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. I don't know. I sound like I'm being down on science camp, but actually, it's a nice comic series.
It is a nice comic series. It is a nice comic series. So yes, they kind of form this little party, and Dustin's like, we're not going to play actual D&D, we're going to play real D&D because there's a real bad guy and we need to team up to fight the bad guy. And then that leads us in to the 4th and final issue, where they go looking for the bad guy and the masked screwdriver dude. And then they kind of have a chat with the bullies, and there's kind of like a little apology.
I'm Trevor.
Yeah.
I think that is exactly one of the lines. I'm Trevor, by the way. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. And they're kind of like, sorry. Sorry for being...
Yeah, like, I don't have friends. I just want to play D&D. And you just think, all right, we'll calm down. But, you know...
Literally an actual quote from season 3 of Stranger Things. But no, I want that on a badge. It's very dramatic.
All right, we'll calm down.
No, I mean that, but I have no friends. I just want to play D&D.
Oh, that too.
But no,
merch.
Seriously, someone that can make badges, make me that as a badge. But no, so then Susie is really cool because she kind of, they get, before they have their little makeup, the bullies and Dustin, they get into a little confrontation. She's like, people are being murdered. This is not the time. But then she kind of says like, I trust Dustin. I believe Dustin. let's follow his lead. And she's really cool. Like, she's just quite level-headed, I think. And I don't know if we see as much of that in the show, because we only see her for that like one chunk of time. And obviously the never ending story moment is iconic, but she's sort of reduced to that comedy thing, where actually she was able to recite Planck's constant off the top of her head, and like, he met her at science camp and she's really badass. So that I liked seeing that in the comics, and her character actually more of a heart. Like you said, she just felt more real. And then the counselors are also looking, and their paths cross again, and they unmask the bad guy, Scooby-Doo style. It is very Scooby-Doo style.
Oh, it's so Scooby-Doo. I think even one point it's like, I have the mask.
Yeah.
And he just pulls it off and you think, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there is a big influence here.
Yes. But we love a bit of Scooby-Doo. We love some Scooby-Doo vibes. So who was the masked murderer?
I mean, would you believe it? It was the camp counselor all along.
And do you know why? Because they didn't want a summer job, but their dads would be angry if they just left. So they decided to make counselors disappear, even like they've actually disappeared. Where are they? Who knows? And so that the camp would get shut down. That was their reason.
And that summer camp, that is the comic.
That is it. Well, it actually ends with Susie and Dustin being like, you were so brave. Oh my God, let's be boyfriend and girlfriend while we're at camp. Have you ever heard of the song Never Ending Story? Let's sing together at karaoke night, which is kind of cute. And it's like a nice little moment. And obviously we know that they continue to be long distance, which is sweet.
Yeah.
But no, I did like it. I felt like the ending was a little bit like disappointing, in the sense that, like, not I wanted people to actually be murdered, but in the sense that it was kind of like, oh, okay, it was just them.
Yeah, like as I said, that I guessed who it was.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw the redhead counselor running away and not dying.
Yeah.
Like it was predictable, but then I suppose it's a bonus comic. It
doesn't need to be. It's just fun.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't need to be anything too major. I think if you like Dustin, you'll like summer camp. Or science camp. I'm calling it summer camp.
Science camp. Yeah.
Anyway, I think if you like Dustin, if you're a fan of Dustin and you like science, you will like Science Camp comic. I think it's a bit of fun. It's you know, if you're not a fan of Dustin, give it a miss, because you're not
definitely not.
Content.
It's interesting. The Will Byers one is still my favorite one, and still my favorite one when it comes to.
I love the Will Byers comic.
Yeah.
I know I'm biased, but I love the Will Byers comic. I think it's the best one of them. And Zombie Boys, actually.
Zombie Boys was really good. I really loved Zombie Boys. That was really cool. Except just, where did their friend go? Or did he just move away again? That was really random. Yeah. But no, we'd love to know if you guys have read Science Camp, what you thought of it, and also what your favorite bonus one is. This one, like I said, my favorite one is the Will Byers one, but I did like this being kind of, I think this is sort of up there, because it was fun, and it was sort of a little bit of like a murder mystery, summer love kind of thing, and it did sort of give us just a little bit of, okay, that's what went down at Camp Nowhere, and I did like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you care about the characters. Yeah. Well, you care about Dustin and Susie.
Yeah.
I can't say that. I mean, as much as I wanted to like Stephen, I couldn't really. You don't see Stephen and Trevor enough, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you want some content with main cast, this is a good one. I think that's I think that's where the comics I think that's the comics as a whole. I think that's where their strength lies, actually.
Yeah.
Because I think about all the ones that have actually featured the ones that we know have seemed to have done a lot better. I don't know, it's because they've got pre-existing characters where, like, 6, you're making them up.
Yeah.
In a way, which in a sense should mean that you get more freedom with it.
No, but it's kind of like you need to get to know them in a short space of time, whereas these you can go into them already knowing the characters, so you already care. Whereas if you don't like the new character, it's harder. But no, I think this is it's a fun one, and it's finished now, so you can either check it out as the 4 individual ones, or the bind up comes out in like May, I think. So yeah, thank you guys for listening to the Hawkins Do You Copy podcast.
Remember, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts at Hawkins Do You Copy. You can find us on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Hawkins Podcast, and on hawkinsdoyoucopy.tumblr.com on Tumblr, and on YouTube. Find us on YouTube.
Come see our faces, and we will see you guys next week. Over and out.